Hello, welcome once again to the PodCase Podcast, where we answer your questions about personal injury cases. I am your host, Rusty Mester with Big River Trial Attorneys. We're joined again by our co host, Maria, our client support specialist. Maria, with summer coming upon us, we got a question that I thought was really timely that I would like to talk about today. Someone asked, am I liable if someone gets hurt at my swimming pool? Swimming pools are a great way to beat the heat in Baton Rouge, but they also come with some significant legal responsibilities. Uh, Probably one of the first things you want to think about is what is called an attractive nuisance. So, this is a doctrine that Louisiana recognizes where basically, if you go out and you create a danger on your property, you may not think of it as a danger, but something dangerous to children, and children come onto your property and they get hurt, you can be held responsible for what happens to those children. And this applies even if the children did not have permission to be on your property. It applies even if they were trespassing, if you should have known that children might come onto your property. So obviously, if you have a beautiful backyard paradise, your glistening pool can look like a real danger to children. It can look irresistible.
How can a property owner protect themselves?
First thing you're going to want to think about is fencing. Make sure you have the right fencing around your pool. So you want to fence at least 4 feet tall, something children cannot easily climb over. You're also going to want something with a self-latching gate, and you're going to want that gate high enough to where small children can't reach it. Now, you'll see this if you go to a hotel or an apartment complex. They always have a gate that with a spring on it that closes automatically, and that latch is always at the top. And something else to think about. So when I mentioned attractive nuisances, we're talking about swimming pools today, but it doesn't just apply to swimming pools. It can apply to a pond. It can apply to an old dilapidated piece of playground equipment in your backyard. Any of those things that you put out there that could be a danger to a child, you could be held responsible. But going back to pools, some of the other specific safety things you're going to want to watch out for. Uh, Maybe consider getting a pool cover, right? So if your entire pool is covered when it's not in use, it obviously looks less attractive. Make sure you remove any toys or floats that might attract a child's attention. Some people go so far as to put like a motion alarm around their pool, or maybe even a door alert on their gate so they know when that gate is opening and closing. And you want to make sure you have the right rescue equipment out at your pool just in case it's needed. A pool noodle is not a rescue device, right? A blow up inflatable is not a rescue device. You're going to want to have some life rings and probably a pole large enough to pull somebody out. If you know there are going to be children at your pool, make sure you supervise the children. Always supervise children around water, even if they know how to swim. If you're going to have a party, you're going to have a bunch of children over, or a bunch of people over, not even just children. You should have a designated water watcher. This is somebody who's not playing on their phone, not scrolling social media, they're not drinking, they're not socializing. Their job is to watch the pool and make sure everybody in there is safe. Now, another thing I would recommend is never let anyone swim alone, whether it's a child or an adult. It's much safer to swim with a buddy, with somebody else there in case something happens. You never know when you fall and you get your head or somebody else does, right? And it's always good to have somebody else there to help out when the unexpected happens. I mentioned this a little bit before, but avoid relying solely on like floaties or inflatables. This is especially true. Like, let's say you have a small child, you're a toddler, and you're going to blow up some arm floaties and put them on their arms. Well, that doesn't mean you can go take a nap. That doesn't mean you can go watch a football game. You have to watch that child continuously. That floaty is not a substitute for proper adult supervision. Another thing that we see a lot around pools are for like trip hazards, skimmer covers, things like that. So you go around the pool, and every so often there'll be a skimmer basket where leaves might get caught and you clean it out, things like that. Those should be secured down. If they're not, they can pop up. Now you have a hole in the middle of the ground that somebody could easily just step into. So you want to make sure your skimmer covers are secured, make sure your drain covers are secured, make sure the walking area around the pool is clear of toys and floats every time that you get out. Don't just leave all that stuff there. Somebody could trip over. The worst case scenario, somebody trips over it, they hit their head, they fall into the water. Now this has become a very serious problem. Even outside of that, somebody trips on it and they hurt their leg. That's something that's just easily avoidable. Making sure you have a clear walking path around your pool. And it's not just toys, right? So avoid leaving hoses out, cleaning equipment out, even furniture. If you pull the lawn chair up over by the pool, when you're done, make sure you put it back. Okay.
Will insurance provide coverage if someone is injured on your property?
Will, if you have the right insurance. First thing I would recommend is that ensure you have adequate liability coverage. I'm going to say at least 300,000, probably safer with a million. You might want to consider purchasing what they call an umbrella policy. So an umbrella is a second policy on top of your primary policy. This gives you extra protection. Make sure your insurance company knows about your pool. This is a mistake I've seen. Somebody comes and they put in a pool. They don't tell the insurance company about it. The insurance company has not been, in their mind, they have not been providing coverage for that pool. So when the comes up, they are denying that claim. And this doesn't just apply to the backyard paradise you have built. This can apply if you go down to a sporting goods store and you buy an above ground pool. Well, now you put in a pool, and if you didn't tell your insurance company about it and something happens in that pool, you may be paying for that yourself. Also, make sure to disclose any diving boards or slides or anything like that to your insurance company. We see a lot less of those things nowadays than when I was a kid, and probably in part just because there's so much risk associated with a backyard diving board or a backyard slide, things like that. All right, so we've talked a lot about what happens if somebody is injured at your pool, or what if you or your child is injured at someone else's pool. For any of the things we've talked about that could cause injuries at your house, they could also cause injuries somewhere else. If it does happen, obviously the first thing is to always get any medical attention you need. But I would also make sure that you document the scene, get any photos of any dangers that were out there, make sure that you make notes and things like that. Again, this is not necessarily you looking to sue your neighbor, but if you are going to have medical expenses due to some danger that was caused by somebody else, if you're going to have injuries from that, you're going to be making an insurance claim. You want that claim to be well done. All right. It is getting hotter outside. Summer is upon us. So please stay safe out there. We hope you enjoy your swimming pools, but we hope you enjoy them safe. I want to thank you all for everyone who attended today. Replay of this podcast will be up on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you enjoy your podcast. If you have a question that did not get answered, or if you would like us to talk about a specific topic, feel free to email us at the podcast at bigriverlaw.com. And if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to like and subscribe.